Welcome everyone to my Sinister Cup video. This is the last moment cup I attended and I had absolutely no practice before this cup. I think I practiced about 10 or 12 matches the night before the cup, and first match I noticed that my opponent has a Mawile. I usually prefer running double ghost the whole tournament and in general, so that strategy is extremely weak to Mawile. So I decide to take Bastiodon, and a lot of Mawile players actually tend to lead with Mawile. So I decide to lead with Bastiodon, and I decided to take Medicham instead of Poliwrath because number one, Medicham beats all fighters, and although Poliwrath has better matchup versus Ghost, but Medicham has better matchups versus Psychic types. You will see later in this video what I mean by that. So here I use Dusclops extensively in the whole tournament. I love using Dusclops and how spammy it is. Here I easily tank a Wild Charge, and I decide to shield here because I know I would get to a Shadow Punch and either burn his shield or KO. I'll probably burn his shield. And I have Bastiodon in my bag, so I instantly switch to Bastiodon. I don't know why, but in this cup I faced a lot of problems switching with Bastiodon, with Claydol. You'll see later in this video. And I am extremely sorry again because it was a 5-round tournament and I couldn't record the final round number 5, because I was facing a lot of technical difficulties. My avatar kept drifting to another location constantly and it didn't come back. I tried restarting my location, I tried restarting my phone, it didn't work. In the end, I played with Aura Blitz's phone the final round and I won that round, but because I played with his phone that I don't have the recording of the final round. So apologies in advance and enjoy match number 2. Here again I decide to lead with Bastiodon and I get the Driftlim lead. This is the hard counter lead and I am ready for him to switch. I'm keeping I'm hovering one finger above the switch tray. He decides to shield. I don't know why if he should have sacked his Driftlim or just switched. Now I want my Bastiodon to get low, because if my Bastiodon is low, his fighters can't farm out my Bastiodon, and here he takes Mawile. And that's why I prefer Bastiodon over Steelix, because Steelix is really good. Steelix has that Earthquake nuking potential, but Bastiodon reliably beats all ghosts. I don't know if you guys know it or not. If anyone has a Legacy Haunter and they land the Shadow Ball on Steelix, Steelix takes so much heavy damage. This problem you will never face with Bastiodon. And also Steelix, after the intervention of the Fire Spin Marowak, Steelix loses that match in 1 shield, and in 0 shield Steelix has to land that Earthquake to win. But in general now Fire Spin Marowak wins. But Bastiodon doesn't have that problem. In most ceiling scenario, Bastiodon will beat all ghosts reliably, and that is why I use Bastiodon more than Steelix, but I keep Steelix for bench pressure. Now, you guys can ask that why I am using Dusclops instead of Alolan Marowak, although Fire Spin Marowak does a lot of damage to Mawile, but the thing is, Alolan Marowak does a lot of damage, but in one shielding scenario it doesn't really do that much well against Mawile. It's an IV based thing, but with Dusclops is so tanky and spammy that Dusclops can spam fire punches, and even if Dusclops loses, even if you decide to not burn equal shield, if you decide to preserve your shields, Dusclops can burn your opponent's shield. Now Drifblim is again a really good pick. I don't know why I didn't use it. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't use Drifblim because I actually didn't have the TMs to switch my Drifblim to Shadow Ball. I had Omnis Wind and Icy Wind, and I needed Shadow Ball. Now the Drifblim matchup is with Marowak is you have to land the Bone Club bait. If you do not land the Bone Club bait, you lose. You just lose straight up. But if you do land the Bone Club bait and your opponent, even if you're, I think in one shield scenarios you definitely win, but in two shield scenario it's iffy because hexes do a lot of damage to you. It's really iffy, and Drifblim gets to Omnis Wind faster than you get to Shadow Ball. So it's a really iffy matchup. But I actually prefer using Drifblim over Alolan Marowak because with Shadow Ball Drifblim, if you can bait properly and you can call your opponent's bait, you can take down both Alolan Marowak and Hexclops. That is a really good advantage in this cup. Now I decided to shielded Wild Charge because I had a lot of energy and I just wanted to finish. Now round number 2 versus Tomarabba. Again I decided to take Bastiodon, Medicham and Dusclops. The same thing I led with round number 1, and I catch the Drifblim lead. Now I'm running Hexclops instead of Feint Attack Dusclops because Hexclops actually wins against Poliwrath in most shielding scenarios and most Poliwrath movesets. I think Poliwrath has, I think Mudshot Poliwrath with double Hydro Pump beats it. I'm not sure. I have to look the matchups again. I didn't have much practice. Anyways, so he decides to sack his Drifblim and he's running double Ghosts. This is what I'm talking about. If I had Steelix and he had Marowak instead of Dusclops, Steelix wouldn't reliably beat it. But with Bastiodon, I can reliably beat both Ghosts. I decide to forego my Bastiodon because Bastiodon has already done his job. Bastiodon basically took out 2 Mons without using a shield. And Dusclops is in the red zone. And now I can just farm out this Dusclops. So what I was talking about was Hexclops. Feint Attack Dusclops although wins against Steelix, but Hexclops actually wins against Poliwrath. And I was more concerned about Wrath than Steelix. I had a lot of counter for Steelix. I had Medicham, I had Marowak, I had my own Steelix to mirror Steelix, so I had a lot of things for Steelix, but I was wary of Poliwrath. That's why I ran Hexclops, and Hexclops actually came in handy in this cup. You'll see I face a lot of Poliwraths here. And I decide to run Medicham instead of here. I sack my Medicham. I know he's going to get to a Shadow Ball, but I sack my Medicham because I don't know why. I thought that I'm sorry, he's running triple ghosts. That's why I sack my Medicham, because my Medicham basically has no utility. And there I bait out all his energy for my Medicham, or my Medicham would KO him. And here another matchup, Bastiodon versus Marowak. If I had led with Steelix, my Steelix, it's a really iffy matchup versus Alolan Marowak. But with Bastiodon, it's basically a sure win. And here he pulls off an excellent switch to his Poliwrath. Now here I am running double Steel, because first match he ran double Ghost, triple Ghost. So even if he ran double Ghosts here, Medicham isn't really a good pick versus double Ghosts. So I would advise everyone to do this. I would ever advise everyone to read your opponent, read what kind of teams they like running in the first match, what they like, and adapt to their playstyle. That's how you can win Sinister, by predicting and outpicking your opponent. You can play really well, but I will show you in my 4th round that even if I did play really well, my opponent just won because they outpicked me. And I couldn't read my opponent as well. But here I am trying to read my opponent. I predicted that if he ran triple ghosts in the first match, he might run triple or maybe even double ghost with Poliwrath, because he faced a lot of problems with my Bastion in the first match. So that's why I kept Dusclops in the back, not in the front. Now he has Dusclops. I am in an extremely good situation here. That's why I kept Dusclops in the back for Poliwrath. I decide to shield because I thought that I would get to a Stone Age. The shielding is questionable, and I don't get to a Stone Age, but I have a full health Steelix in the back, and this match is basically over in the first turn. I can just Dragon Tail him down at this point. It doesn't matter how many Shadow Punches it lands. I don't even need to use my shield. Now, 3rd match, I decide to take Marowak lead. I don't know why. I should have gone with my core team. I don't know why. I should have led with Dusclops, because in both matches I led with Bastiodon and I caught his ghost. So this match I should have predicted his Poliwrath, but I had already won this round. I was 2-0 up at this point, and to be honest, I didn't care about the 3rd match. I didn't care about winning. And I know this is a really amateur mistake, but I didn't know that winning more matchups would add up to tiebreaker points. I'm sorry guys, I didn't read the new Sylph rules. So at this point I can just Bone Club him with my Marowak, so I'm contemplating going for Bone Club, and I don't need to shield that Shadow Punch. Now Dusclops is such a good mon, it's so tanky, it's so good, but I think that Dusclops lacks nuking potential. If Dusclops had Shadow Ball, Dusclops would not only be top tier in Sinister, it will be top tier in whole general GL. Now guys, again, I face a lot of this, that players tend to dynamic punch ghosts. Please don't do that. Dynamic punch is double resisted, so if you have dynamic punch and ice punch is single resisted for Alolan Marowak, and ice punch is neutral against Dusclops and Haunter, and super effective against Riftblim. So just go for ice punch if you have dynamic punch and ice punch. But if you have dynamic punch and hydro pump, shields down, you can just go for hydro pump. Why would you go for dynamic punch? I don't get it. But here I had Bastion and he had Steelix. He was ready for my Bastion. That's why he kept both Poliwrath and Steelix in his team. So here you can obviously see that he read my team, he read my playstyle better. I adapted in the 2nd match and he adapted in the 3rd match, and I got cocky, and hence I lost. Now round number 3 versus Aura Blitz. He leads with a Bastiodon and caught me off guard. Now here I decide to take Bastiodon, Medicham and Claydol, and I decide to sack my Claydol, because if I switch into my Claydol, I can nuke him with earthquakes. Or now here I was counting and I knew it was a Bone Club, And again, against Claydol, you have to land the Bone Club bait, and then you have to land the Shadow Ball to win. If you don't do that, you have to burn a lot of shields. So here I get baited again. And I know that he doesn't have a Shadow Ball charged. Now I run Earthquake because Earthquake is a lot better nuke than Earth Power. It would nuke Steelix and Alolan Marowak in the zero shield scenario. It would just one-shot Alolan Marowak. Now Alolan Marowak is so low that I can just come in with my Dusclops. Now here I decide to let go of my Dusclops. I knew that was going to be a Shadow Ball because Aura Blitz, I faced him during practice. He tended to run double Steel in his team. And he had Bastiodon and Steelix in his team of 6, as you can see from his team comp. So I kept Medicham. I don't know, it was a gut feeling. I tried to out-predict him that he would take double Steel again. So I kept Medicham in my bag and I sacked Dusclops. If I had sacked my Medicham, it would have been worse for me, but he didn't use double Steel this match. He had Claydol, and because I saved my shield earlier, I could just double Ice Punch Claydol down. Now if I had Poliwrath, it would have been a really iffy matchup versus Claydol because Confusion is neutral to Medicham. It doesn't do as much damage, but Wrath, it's kind of a shielding matchup. If your opponent's Claydol has a shield advantage, you basically lose. So that's why I kept Medicham in my bag with Ice Punch, and I didn't run Psychic. And powered up Ice Punch, as you could see, it just two-shot that Claydol. Medicham is just so good. I just steamrolled his team with Medicham in a ghost dominated cup, and I could do that because as you can see from his team comp, he doesn't have a lot of ghosts. He only has Marowak in his team, and Medicham and Dusclops, Medicham and Claydol has positive matchups over the board. Because he doesn't have so many ghosts, I can run Medicham flawlessly, and he had only Claydol and Marowak to counter my Medicham, and that was it. So he had Claydol, I had Dusclops for it, and for his steals I kept both my Claydol and Medicham. Here I decide to go for Earth Power. Don't go for Psychic in the Claydol mirror because Psychic is resisted, Earth Power is neutral. Now here he switches to his Poliwrath, and that's why I run Medicham, because Medicham can beat all fighters. Even Poliwrath, just look how much damage Medicham is doing. Even if that's a dynamic punch or an ice punch, it won't do anything to Medicham. It does what, 15% of Medicham's health. Medicham was what I believe was a really sleeper pick in this cup. And Medicham could just dominate teams and with less amounts of ghosts. If the team had one ghost, it could dominate it. And here you could see that again I steamrolled his team with Medicham. I just got rid of his Alolan Marowak, and then I just steamrolled with Medicham. They could do nothing. Now third match I lead with Medicham and he leads with Primeape. Now again, his Primeape isn't Legacy. It doesn't have Cross Chop, it doesn't have Night Slash. Now Cross Chop would have been better, but still Cross Chop Primeape can't beat Medicham. Medicham is just that good. He uses Night Slash, it's neutral, but it doesn't do anything. Now I'm ramping up my Medicham for his moms in the back, or whatever he has in the back. Now it's double powered up. He switches to his Alolan Marowak, and I instantly switch to my Dusclops, building energy for my Medicham. Now I keep both my Medicham and Claydol in the back for his Alolan Marowak, and I am trying to burn his shields, because shields down, my Claydol can just one-shot his Alolan Marowak. And Dusclops again, so tanky, so spammy with his shadow punches. It just lacks damage. If it had another move that was a more damaging move like Psychic, even Psychic or like Shadow Ball, it would have been broken in this cup. But still, I'm really happy for Dusclops. I love using Dusclops. So I'm just spamming shadow punches here. And I got rid of his shields. I have a powered up Medicham in my back, and I have Claydol. Now I have this is a double boosted Medicham. Just look how much Ice Punch does. Oof, it does over 50% health. My Medicham went down, but it did 50%, over 50% health with just Ice Punch. It was just that good. Now I don't need to shield here, it's just an Earth Power. I can tank 2 Earth Powers at this range. Now I don't decide to throw any charge move, I could just Confusion him down, and I just did it. And that was 3-0 sweep. Now my 4th opponent versus Shaun 12. Here I did a mistake. I took Bastiodon, Medicham and Dusclops. I don't know why. I had a gut feeling that he was going to lead with Poliwrath, and he did. I should have led with Dusclops, and I switched to my Dusclops. Now here from now on here, it's mostly a rock paper scissors game, but you will see how he outpicks me. I should have known that people tend to run double ghosts, right? It's a really common strategy, double, even triple ghosts, or what Tomaraba did in my second round. So I should have predicted him. He has Bronzong in the back. Bronzong beats both Medicham and Bastiodon. Basically here I don't have anything for his Bronzong. And my Dusclops just goes down. And here I am also experiencing some network issues. As I told you earlier, my game kept drifting. Now here his Bronzong is low. It's a Psyshock, and I decide to shield. Oh, it's a Psychic. He ran Psychic Bronzong. Now I was expecting him running Steelix. And Poliwrath at the same time. To be honest, his Bronzong caught me off guard. And that right there, I should have taken double ghost and Bastiodon, and double ghost or Medicham. I should have either sacked Bastiodon or I should have sacked my Medicham. If I had double ghosts, he couldn't beat me. Now here he's just going to switch to his Poliwrath, and he's just going to farm me out. I have nothing to do here. If I had double ghosts, this would have been an easy win. And it was getting dark at this point, and I was kind of feeling tired and dehydrated. My brain wasn't working as good at this point, I'm sorry to say. But I should have learned from this match number 1, and I should have adapted in my second match. But you will see that in my second match I do the same mistake. Now here I go for Ice Punch. I have nothing to do. Even if I needed Psychic here, but I didn't run Psychic. But I think even if I had Psychic, it wouldn't even matter. So in my second match I decided to go with Dusclops, Medicham and Claydol. Although I adjusted my team, but I didn't adjust my playstyle. So here I catch his Bronzong. Now that is really good for me. It's a really good lead matchup. My Dusclops can take out his Bronzong all day. Now I think he's going to sack his Bronzong. Now here I think I should have shielded. I knew it was going to be a Psychic. Now looking back at my matchups, I think I should have shielded that, and I would have had a lot of HP left. and I would have been able to spam 2 or even 3 shadow punches to the next mon. That would put a dent to any mon except for Bastion. Now he has Poliwrath right here. That was one bubble. Now I decide to switch to my Claydol. Now here I should have just sacked my Medicham and just kept Double Ghost and Claydol. Now the strategy I loved the most was Claydol with Marowak and Dusclops. I would lead with Marowak or Claydol and have Dusclops in the back, safe switching. Now here I decide to go with Earth Power. Now here I have Shield advantage, I have Pokemon advantage, but I can't do anything because I have Medicham in my back. So here I should have learned from my game number 1, and Claydol was okay, but I shouldn't have taken Medicham. Even if I shielded that Shadow Ball, it was already game over. So here I adjust my team. This time adjusting to Double Ghost and Claydol, and I catch his Mawile. Again, I should have led with Dusclops like the rest of my matches. But I don't think it was that bad because I actually do a lot of damage to that Mawile. It's going to be a Power Up Punch, I don't need to shield that. Now his Mawile is just going to go down from my Fire Spin. Now I am targeting Shadow Ball. If not Bastiodon, I could Shadow Ball anything. Yes, I kept calm. I didn't go for Panic Bone Club. I waited for the Shadow Ball. And here again I did another mistake of switching. I should have kept my Marowak there. And here I make another mistake. I wasn't counting. Here this was a winning game. I could have won this game easily by adjusting my team further, but I wasn't counting and I took Shadow Ball to the face. That right there was the deciding factor of the game. If I just shielded once, this game would have been mine easily. But I am really sorry I wasn't counting. That was a really amateur mistake from me. Now he has Poliwrath. Now I am contemplating to go with double Psychic. Now if I had my Dusclops there, my Dusclops would beat his Drifblim and take out chunks from his Wrath. And I could have burned his shields and could have finished with. Now here he gets CMP and and he takes game number 3 and he just sweeps me. This was on me. This was me not adapting to my opponent. I knew these matchups. I knew his playstyles. From game number 1, I should have taken Double Ghost and Claydol in my second match. And in my third match, I should have counted better. I did a counting mistake. I can't believe myself. I was away from PvP for over a month and I think I got rusty with my counting. That was 5 hexes. That was Shadow Ball. 4 hexes was Ominous Wind. I didn't count 1 hex. I had 2 shields. I could have just shielded that. In my final round, I go 2-1. I win my final round. And I go 4-1 in my only Sinister Cup. I did a lot of silly mistakes and I did a lot of amateurish mistakes. So I hope, I know I couldn't help you guys with team building strats or matchups, mastery or anything this month. I am sorry, I was extremely sick this month. I had dengue. I was hospitalized for about 7 days. So I couldn't do anything. I even missed my exams. So I'm really down on that. But I hope you learned from my mistakes. I know I couldn't help you guys, but don't do these mistakes. Count properly every single fast move. Even if that's a winning matchup, don't get cocky. Count every move. See what your opponent leads with, see what your opponent's team is and what he tends to go with. Does he go for double ghosts or triple ghosts, or does he front load his team with double fighters or double steals, and adapt to that in your in your second or third matches. First match is, I would call it a practice, and just analyze him. Even if you lose your first match, you have nothing to worry about. Just try to adapt in your second and third matches. As you could see in my matches versus Shaun, I did adapt, but I adapted late. I should have adapted during the second match, but I adapted during the third. It was too late by then, and I made such a mistake of not counting properly. So I hope you learned even a little bit from this cup. Most Sinister Cups are already done for this month, but I hope that you could learn something for your upcoming cups, not just Sinister, PvP in general. This is Bhuvan Ahmed signing out.